Do you remember the white feather drifting through the wind? Gently floating down beside the worn shoes of a man sitting at a bus stop? Have you ever wondered why a simple story could move the entire world to tears? In 1994, something extraordinary happened in cinema. A film arrived that would touch hearts across generations, transcending boundaries of age, culture, and time itself. That film was Forrest Gump. Directed by Robert Zemeckis and based on Winston Groom's novel, the movie became more than just entertainment. It became a phenomenon. The box office numbers told one story: over $678 million worldwide. But the accolades told another: 6 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Actor. These weren't just statistics. They were proof that audiences had witnessed something truly special. But Forrest Gump achieved something even more remarkable than commercial success or critical acclaim. It became woven into the fabric of American culture. The film's most famous line, "Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get," entered the lexicon of everyday conversation. People quoted it at graduations, at dinner tables. In moments of uncertainty, the character himself became a symbol of perseverance, of innocence, of unconditional love. Through one man's extraordinary journey, the film captured decades of American history: the Vietnam War, the Civil Rights Movement, Watergate, the AIDS crisis, counterculture. Yet it never felt like a history lesson. It felt personal, intimate, real. At the heart of this magic were the performers who brought these characters to life. Tom Hanks, who embodied Forrest with such authenticity that audiences forgot they were watching acting. Wright, who gave Jenny Curran layers of vulnerability and strength. Gary Sinise, transforming Lieutenant Dan Taylor into one of cinema's most unforgettable supporting characters. Sally Field, bringing maternal warmth and wisdom to Mrs. Gump. Mughal T. Williamson, making Bubba Blue an eternal symbol of friendship. And the young actors Michael Connor Humphreys, Hannah Hall, and Haley Joel Osment, who planted the seeds of this remarkable story. They came together for a few months of filming. They created movie magic. And then, life moved forward. 3 decades have passed since that white feather first danced across the screen. The world has changed. Technology has revolutionized how we watch movies. New generations have discovered the film on streaming platforms, sharing it with their own children. Yet the questions remain. What happened to the people who made us believe in Forrest's journey? Where did their careers take them? Did they find the same magic again? Did fame embrace them? Or did they choose to step away from its glare? Some became legends. Others found different paths. Some faced struggles we never knew about. But each of them, in their own way, left an indelible mark on cinematic history. Tonight, we embark on a journey through time. A journey to discover where these remarkable actors are now, their triumphs, their challenges, their transformations. So let us begin with the man who sat on that bus stop bench, sharing chocolate and wisdom with strangers. Let us begin with Forrest Gump himself. Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. With those words, delivered in that distinctive Southern drawl, Tom Hanks created one of cinema's most beloved characters. But who was Tom Hanks in 1994? Before Forrest Gump would cement his place among Hollywood's greatest, by the time he put on Forrest's plaid shirt and running shoes, Hanks was already ascending to the heights of his craft. Just the year before, He had won his first Academy Award for Philadelphia, playing a lawyer, dying of AIDS with devastating authenticity. But even that triumph couldn't prepare anyone for what he would achieve as Forrest. Hanks didn't just play Forrest, he became him. Every gesture, every inflection, every innocent smile came from somewhere deep and genuine. He made us believe that this man with an IQ of 75 could teach us more about life than any genius ever could. The Academy agreed, awarding him his second consecutive Oscar for Best Actor, a feat achieved by only a handful of performers in history. But the question isn't what Tom Hanks accomplished then. It's what happened after. The answer? He became a legend. In the years following Forrest Gump, Hanks continued to choose roles with remarkable care and wisdom. He commanded the screen in Apollo 13, saved Private Ryan, solved mysteries with the Da Vinci Code, and became Walt Disney himself. He voiced Woody across 4 Toy Story films, creating another character that defined childhoods. He produced groundbreaking television with Band of Brothers and The Pacific. He even directed films, wrote stories, and became a passionate advocate for space exploration and history. Today, at 68 years old, Tom Hanks stands as one of the most respected figures in entertainment. He's married to actress Rita Wilson, his partner of over 35 years. Together, they've weathered challenges, including their highly publicized battle with COVID-19 in 2020, which they faced with characteristic grace and humor. But perhaps what's most remarkable about Tom Hanks isn't his continued success, it's his continued humanity. In an industry often criticized for excess and ego, Hanks remains grounded, kind, and beloved. He's known for his generosity with fans, his thoughtful interviews, and his genuine love for his craft. Still, Forrest Gump remains special. Hanks himself has said it's one of the roles closest to his heart, because in playing a man who saw the world with such simple clarity, perhaps he helped all of us see a little more clearly too. But Forrest's journey wouldn't have been complete without Jenny, the love that defined his entire life. Run, Forrest, run. Those words, shouted by a frightened little girl trying to protect her friend, would echo through Forrest's entire life. And the woman who grew up to be Jenny, damaged, searching, eternally seeking freedom she could never quite find, was brought to life by Wright with heartbreaking authenticity. In 1994, Wright was already known to audiences. She had captured hearts as Princess Buttercup in the cult classic The Princess Bride in 1987. She had proven her dramatic abilities in State of Grace alongside Sean Penn, whom she would later marry. But Jenny Curran was different. Jenny was complex, flawed, sometimes frustrating, a woman running from childhood trauma, making destructive choices, yet somehow remaining sympathetic. Wright played her with layers of pain and vulnerability. She made us understand why Jenny kept leaving. Even as our hearts broke for Forrest, waiting on that porch, she showed us a woman searching for self-worth in all the wrong places, yet never losing the spark of the little girl who once dreamed of flying away like a bird. After Forrest Gump, Wright's career took interesting turns. She appeared in films like Message in a Bottle and Unbreakable, but it was television that would bring her greatest triumph. In 2013, she took on the role of Claire Underwood in House of Cards, creating one of the most formidable female characters in television history. As Claire, Wright was calculating, ambitious, and ruthlessly intelligent, everything Jenny wasn't. The performance earned her a Golden Globe and multiple Emmy nominations. She became the highest-paid actress in television, and in the show's final season, She didn't just star, she directed, taking full creative control. Today, at 58, Robin Wright continues to work both in front of and behind the camera. She's directed episodes of major series and chosen film roles that interest her rather than ones that simply pay well. She's become an advocate for pay equality in Hollywood. Using her platform to push for systemic change, she's been married and divorced, raised 2 children with Sean Penn, and found peace in a more private life than many of her contemporaries. In interviews, she reflects on her career with wisdom and perspective. Acknowledging both the triumphs and struggles, Jenny may have been forever searching, but Robin Wright seems to have found what she was looking for: creative fulfillment on her own terms. Respect as both an artist and a businesswoman, and a life lived with intention. Yet when we think of her, many of us still see that girl in the cornfield, telling her best friend to run. Some performances simply never leave us. But if Jenny was Forrest's love, then Bubba was his truest friend, the companion whose dream would outlive him. Anyway, like I was saying, shrimp is the fruit of the sea. You can barbecue it, boil it, broil it, bake it, sauté, eat. Bubba Blue talked about shrimp the way other people talk about their greatest passions. And in doing so, Mykelti Williamson created a character who appears in only a portion of the film yet remains unforgettable decades later. Before Forrest Gump, Williamson was a working actor with steady credits but no breakthrough role. He'd appeared in television shows and smaller films, building his craft quietly and persistently. He was talented, dedicated, and waiting for his moment. Bubba was that moment. Williamson made choices that transformed what could have been a simple character into something deeply human. That protruding lower lip wasn't makeup or prosthetics, it was a physical choice Williamson made. Holding his lip out with his tongue throughout filming, it gave Bubba a distinctive appearance that was never mocked within the film, only accepted. Just as Forrest accepted everything and everyone, more importantly, Williamson gave Bubba dignity. Here was a man with a dream, a simple dream about shrimp boats and being his own captain, and Williamson made us believe in that dream completely. When Bubba died in Forrest's arms in the Vietnamese jungle, audiences everywhere wept for this gentle soul who deserved so much better. After Forrest Gump, Williamson continued to work steadily in Hollywood. He appeared in films like Heat and Con Air. He became a familiar face on television, with recurring roles on shows including 24, Justified, and Chicago P.2D. He's worked consistently for 3 decades, always bringing professionalism and depth to his roles. But here's the interesting thing. Despite hundreds of credits since 1994, many people still know him primarily as Bubba. Some actors might resent being defined by one role. Williamson seems to have embraced it with grace. Now 67 years old, he continues to work regularly in television and film. He's married, private about his personal life, and apparently content with a career that has provided steady work and creative satisfaction, if not superstardom. In interviews, Williamson speaks fondly of his time on Forrest Gump and his gratitude for how it changed his career. He understands that Bubba touched something in people that dream of friendship, loyalty, and simple ambitions in a complicated world. The Bubba Gump Shrimp Company restaurants that now exist worldwide are a testament to the character's enduring appeal. Bubba's dream came true after all, just not in the way anyone expected. But every dream needs a skeptic who becomes a believer. And that brings us to Lieutenant Dan, the wounded warrior who had to lose everything to find what mattered most. I was supposed to die in the field with honor, That was my destiny. And you cheated me out of it. Lieutenant Dan Taylor was a man at war not just with the enemy, but with God, fate, and himself. He was born into a military dynasty, expected to die gloriously in combat, and instead found himself a double amputee, rescued by the man he considered beneath him. Gary Sinise took this potentially one-dimensional character and created something profound, a man's journey from darkness into light. Before Forrest Gump, Sinise was respected in theater circles and had appeared in films, but he wasn't a household name. He co-founded the Steppenwolf Theater Company in Chicago and was known as a serious actor's actor. Playing Lieutenant Dan changed everything. Sinise's performance was raw and unflinching. He showed us Dan's rage, his alcoholism, his suicidal despair, and then, gradually, his redemption. The scene where Dan makes peace with God during the hurricane is cinema at its finest, and Sinise delivered it with devastating power. His performance earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor. But what happened after Forrest Gump is perhaps even more remarkable than the performance itself. Gary Sinise found his purpose. Playing Lieutenant Dan connected Sinise deeply with veterans and military families. He could have simply moved on to other roles. Instead, he devoted his life to supporting those who serve. In 2011, he established the Gary Sinise Foundation, which has raised hundreds of millions of dollars for veterans, first responders, and their families. He's built specially adapted smart homes for severely wounded veterans. He's organized entertainment tours to military bases worldwide. He's become an advocate, a fundraiser, and a friend to thousands of service members. The military community regards him with a reverence usually reserved for their own. Professionally, he continued acting, starring in the long-running series CSI, nigh for 9 seasons. He appeared in films like Apollo 13, The Green Mile, and Mission to Mars. He's narrated documentaries, earned countless humanitarian awards, and received honorary military titles. Today, at 69, Gary Sinise continues both his artistic and philanthropic work. He leads the low-tech in a SPAC, Dan Band, playing bass and performing for troops. He speaks at military events. He shows up again and again for those who served. In an industry often criticized for superficial activism, Sinise's commitment is genuine, sustained, and transformative. He took the connection he felt to Lieutenant Dan and turned it into decades of meaningful action. Lieutenant Dan found peace on that shrimp boat, his new titanium legs dangling in the water. Gary Sinise found peace in service to others. Sometimes life imitates art in the most beautiful ways. But behind every great man, as they say, is a great woman. And behind Forrest Gump was the greatest woman of all his mama. You're no different than anybody else. Forrest, you're the same as everybody else. You are no different. With fierce love and gentle wisdom, Mrs. Gump taught her son and all of us that different doesn't mean less. Sally Field brought such warmth and strength to this role that she became the mother we all wished we had, fighting for her son's place in the world with both tenderness and steel. When Field took on Mrs. Place, Gump, she was already Hollywood royalty. She had won 2 Academy Awards for Norma Ray in 1979 and Places in the Heart in 1984. She had starred in beloved films and TV shows for decades. She was, quite simply, one of the finest actresses of her generation. So why take a supporting role in Forrest Gump? Because Sally Field understood something essential. There are no small parts in great stories. Only small actors. And Mrs. Gump, though she appears in limited scenes, is the moral foundation of the entire film. Field made every moment count. When she tells Forrest that dying is part of life, when she reassures him that he's no different from anyone else, when she speaks her final words from her sickbed, each scene resonates with truth. She created a woman who was poor in money, but rich in wisdom, limited in education, but limitless in love. After Forrest Gump, Field continued choosing roles with her characteristic intelligence. She appeared in Lincoln as Mary Todd Lincoln, earning yet another Oscar nomination. She starred in the TV series Brothers and Sisters, winning an Emmy. She returned to Broadway. She became an author, activist, and outspoken advocate for various causes. Now 78 years old, Sally Field remains active and engaged. She's written a memoir, In Pieces, which became a bestseller and revealed the struggles behind her success, including difficult relationships, career challenges, and personal growth. She's become an LGBTQ+ advocate. Particularly after her son came out, she uses her platform to speak truth to power on political issues. In interviews, Field reflects on her career with humor and hard-won wisdom. She's been married and divorced twice, raised 3 sons, and navigated the impossible standards Hollywood places on women, especially as they age. Through it all, she's maintained her integrity and her craft. Mrs. Gump told Forrest that life is like a box of chocolates. Sally Field has sampled every variety, sweet, bitter, surprising, and emerged as someone who knows what truly matters: authenticity, courage, and love. But to understand Forrest completely, we must return to the beginning, to the boy who first learned to run. Run. Forrest, run. And he ran. The boy who wasn't supposed to walk properly broke free from his braces and discovered he could run faster than anyone. Michael Connor Humphreys, playing young Forrest, captured that moment of liberation with such pure joy that it became one of cinema's most triumphant scenes. Humphreys wasn't a professional child actor. He was just a kid from Mississippi when he auditioned for Forrest Gump. Director Robert Zemeckis was looking for a boy with the right Southern accent and the right feeling, and Humphreys had both. In fact, Tom Hanks studied Humphreys' accent and mannerisms to maintain consistency when playing the adult Forrest. This wasn't just casting, it was magic. Humphreys brought an authentic sweetness to young Forrest. When he tells Jenny he'll marry her someday, when he discovers he can run, when he looks at the world with wonder, these moments work because Humphreys made them real. After Forrest Gump, Humphreys did what almost no one expected. He walked away from Hollywood. He didn't pursue acting. He didn't try to leverage his role in one of the biggest films of all time into a career. Instead, he went home to Mississippi, finished school, and lived a normal life. Then he made another remarkable choice. He enlisted in the United States Army. Humphreys served his country, including an 18-month deployment to Iraq. The boy who played Forrest Gump, the character who survived Vietnam and saved his platoon, grew up to become a real soldier. The parallel is almost too perfect to believe. After his military service, Humphreys returned to civilian life. He's largely stayed out of the spotlight, giving only occasional interviews about his experience on Forrest Gump. He's expressed pride in the film and gratitude for the opportunity. But he's also made clear that acting wasn't his calling. Today, Michael Connor Humphreys lives quietly. Away from Hollywood's glare, he experienced something extraordinary as a child, served his country as a young man, and now apparently enjoys a private life on his own terms. There's something beautifully Forrest-like about his journey. He didn't seek fame or fortune. He did what felt right, served when called, and lived honestly. In a way, he embodied the very lessons his character taught us. And where young Forrest learned to run, young Jenny learned to dream of flying away far from pain, far from fear, to somewhere better. Dear God, make me a bird so I can fly far, far away. That prayer, whispered by a little girl hiding from abuse, is one of the most heartbreaking moments in Forrest Gump. Hannah Hall, just 10 years old, delivered it with such earnest desperation that audiences understood immediately. Jenny's entire life would be defined by trying to fly away from a childhood she could never escape. Hall brought remarkable depth to young Jenny. She had to convey not just a sweet friendship with Forrest, but also hint at the darkness in her home life, the reason she needed to fly away. She had to make us see both innocence and hidden pain. It's a difficult balance for any actor, let alone a child. But Hall achieved it beautifully. Unlike her on-screen counterpart, Michael Connor Humphreys, Hall decided to continue pursuing acting. After Forrest Gump, she appeared in various films and television shows. She had roles in The Virgin Suicides, Halloween, American Crime, and other projects. She also pursued theater, performing in stage productions and studying dramatic arts. Hall's career has been what many would call working actor status steady work. Respected performances, but not superstardom. She's appeared in independent films, taken television guest spots, and done stage work. It's the kind of career that requires dedication and love for the craft rather than chasing fame. Now, in her early 42s, Hall continues to act while also maintaining a relatively private personal life. She's active on social media where she shares thoughts on acting, social issues, and her creative projects. She teaches acting to young performers, passing on what she's learned over 3 decades in the industry. In interviews about Forrest Gump, Hall speaks warmly of the experience and the lifelong connections it created. She's grateful for how the film opened doors. Even while acknowledging the challenges of growing up in the industry, young Jenny prayed to be a bird and fly away. Hannah Hall found her wings in acting, not escaping, but transforming pain into art, childhood experiences into lifelong passion. And speaking of childhood, there's one more child in this story, the one who represented hope, continuity, and the future. Is he? Is he smart? Or is he? He's very smart. He's one of the smartest in his class. In that moment, Forrest's relief is palpable, and the little boy who played his son, Haley Joel Osment, just 6 years old, would go on to prove that he was indeed very smart, becoming one of the most acclaimed child actors of his generation. Osment's role in Forrest Gump was brief but crucial. He represented hope-proof that Forrest's legacy would continue, that his pure heart would live on in his son. The few scenes between Tom Hanks and young Osment radiate with genuine warmth. They feel like father and son. And that authenticity gives the film its emotional resolution. But Osment's appearance in Forrest Gump was just the beginning. 5 years later, at age 11, he starred in The Sixth Sense opposite Bruce Willis. His performance as Cole Sear, I See Dead People, was extraordinary. He earned an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor, becoming one of the youngest nominees ever. He followed that with another remarkable performance in AI, Artificial Intelligence, for Steven Spielberg, Many child actors struggle with the transition to adult roles. Osment has handled it with unusual grace. He continued acting through his teenage years and into adulthood. Taking breaks to attend college at New York University, he's appeared in films, done extensive voice acting work, including the Kingdom Hearts video game series, and worked steadily in television. Now 36 years old, Osment has carved out a sustainable career. He's appeared in shows like Silicon Valley and The Boys, often playing against type with humor and self-awareness. He does voice work, stage productions, and independent films. He's avoided the pitfalls that have derailed many child stars' addiction, legal troubles, public meltdowns, and instead built a life that balances professional work with personal well-being. In the rare interviews where he discusses Forrest Gump, Osment remembers the experience fondly. He was too young to understand the film's significance at the time, but he recognizes now how special it was to be part of something so enduring. Little Forrest Gump Jr. grew up smart, just like his mother promised. And so did Haley Joel Osment, smart enough to navigate Hollywood's treacherous waters and come out the other side with his talent and dignity intact. From Forrest to Jenny, from Bubba to Lieutenant Dan, from Mrs. Gump to the children who portrayed these characters in their youth, each person contributed an essential piece to the puzzle. Together, they created something immortal. 3 decades have passed since that white feather first danced across the screen. 30 years since Forrest sat on that bench and began his remarkable story. The world has changed beyond recognition. Technology has exploded. Culture has shifted. New generations have arrived. But something remains constant: the power of Forrest Gump to move audiences, to remind us of life's simple truths, to make us believe in human goodness. The 8 actors we've journeyed with today took different paths from that pinnacle moment. Tom Hanks became a legend, perhaps the last true movie star of his generation. Beloved for his talent and decency, Robin Wright fought her way to equality and power, transforming from romantic lead to formidable force. Gary Sinise found his life's purpose in service, turning a fictional character into a lifelong mission. Sally Field continued her legacy of artistic excellence and social activism. Michael T. Williamson worked steadily, representing the dignity of the professional actor. Michael Connor Humphreys chose service to country over Hollywood. Hannah Hall followed her artistic passions with quiet determination. And Haley Joel Osment successfully navigated the treacherous path from child star to working adult actor. Some remained in the spotlight. Others stepped back into shadow. Some found fame that lasted. Others found peace that mattered more. Each journey reflects different choice, different values, different definitions of success, but they share something profound. They were all part of something larger than themselves. They contributed to a story that transcended entertainment and became part of our cultural fabric. 30 years later, people still quote the lines, still tear up at the same moments, still find comfort and inspiration in Forrest's journey. Perhaps that's the real lesson of Forrest Gump, not just the story itself, but what happened to those who told it. Life takes us in unexpected directions. Fame comes and goes. Careers rise and fall. But the work we do, when it's done with heart and honesty, lives on beyond us. It becomes part of other people's lives, part of their memories, part of how they understand the world. Whether these actors achieved continued stardom or not, they gave us something precious. They gave us moments of genuine emotion in an increasingly cynical world. They gave us characters we could love, storylines that made us think, scenes that made us feel. That's no small achievement. As we close this journey through time, we might return to Mrs. Gump's wisdom one more time. Life is what you make it. You have to do the best with what God gave you. These 8 people did exactly that. They took their moments in the sun and made something beautiful. The glory may have faded for some. The spotlight may have dimmed, but they remain forever part of a cinematic memory that will never fade. That white feather is still floating somewhere, carried on the wind, landing where it will, and wherever it lands, people will remember. They'll remember a man with a pure heart and the remarkable actors who brought his world to life. Run, Forrest, run.